Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Integrated Self podcast. I hope you guys are having a great freaking week so far. I don't know if you guys, I don't know where you guys live, obviously, but I currently reside in New York. So it's normally very, 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 very cold at this time of year. And for some reason this week, we have no snow. Like even this winter in general, we haven't really had that much snow. I think it snowed once or twice, like heavily. I got out on the slopes once. I like to ski, so skiing is something that my boyfriend and I love to do in the winter. But yeah, we have no snow, and this week for some reason it was so warm. A warm front came in, and today it's just weird to know that it's the last day of February actually. And I'm looking outside and it's warm. I walked my dog today and it was like 60 degrees and I was wearing my sweatshirt and I'm like, this is so strange. So I think it's actually supposed to get a little bit colder towards the end of the week, but I don't know, you guys. Like normally, the Groundhog Day or the Groundhog thing happens every single year, but for some reason, I just can't help but think that this spring might happen a little bit sooner. Don't jinx my words, but like I don't want to jinx it, but I'm just loving this weather. I'm someone that really, really thrives in warmth. I don't like being cold. You know what I'm saying? Like, do I mind having a winter coat on and, it's cold out and I'm walking from my car to the store? No, but I love being outside. I connect to nature a lot. And it's very healing for me. And that's just how I'm like able to ground myself and feel more connected to myself and to the universe. And I just feel like in the winter, it's so hard to get outside unless like you're doing sports outside or like outdoor fishing or like something like that. So my boyfriend and I are very outdoorsy people and the winter is kind of a struggle for us. We've been thinking about, having conversations about moving because I actually kind of tell this story in my book that's coming out this year, but I met him in college. So we are college sweethearts. So when I met my boyfriend in college, he knew that I always wanted to be in the South. Like that's something that we always talked about was like, we both grew up in New York where our families are both from New York. It's so funny. Actually, our families live 30 minutes away from each other. So it's just crazy because we met at college and, once we graduated, all of our family was like around. We lived in the same area as each other. And he just always knew. And like, we both agreed that we would love to live somewhere else. We love the Four Seasons. We love the area, like the Adirondack Mountains are around us. And, it's just a quick drive away. There's a lot of things to do. But as far as just like life and the state that we live in and, even me just being self-employed, it's just like, there's a lot of other things on the table. And I just function so much better in the heat or in just like not as cold of weather. And I just really am excited to experience new things and new places. And, my best friend, her mom lives in South Carolina. I love that area. I've been to Tennessee. Like we're just thinking about possibly moving soon and, might as well try it out. Right. Because like, we know that's kind of my advice. And that's how I feel right now in my life is like, I'm in my mid-20s. I have no kids. We live in this apartment together, but we don't really have that much stuff besides our like furniture. We're not accumulating all these things because we just knew that we'd always be moving eventually. And I always just envisioned myself like starting a family, like not here. It would really stink to leave everyone we know behind. But at the same time, like our like mindset when it comes to moving is like, we know this area, we both grew up in this area. We don't know any other area. So if we move somewhere and we don't like it there, we can always move back up here. You know what I'm saying? And I just feel like I would rather do it now before we have kids and before like all of that life stuff occurs because, like nothing's stopping us. And I'm just so excited. So it's just such a tease for me personally to have this warm weather in February because I'm like, if it's going to get colder and it's still going to snow, because that's what happens is like this might happen in February in New York. And then, we're like, oh my gosh, it's spring already. It's March and we're going to have more warm weather, like longer, warmer months. No, it gets like cold again all the way through April. And then my birthday is late May. And I just feel like normally by the time May rolls around and it's like around my birthday, it's starting to get warmer out. So I'm just hoping that this warm weather stays. I don't even mind 50-degree weather, but normally in the summer or normally in the winters in New York here, it's like 5 degrees, 13 degrees on a daily basis. And I just would rather it be like 30 or 40 degrees. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, you guys, but I'm just enjoying the warm weather this week. I hope you are too. Maybe you guys had a warm front where you live as well. But you guys, I have so much tea to spill in this episode today because we're going to be talking about intuitive eating and how intuitive eating has completely changed my life. I'm not lying to you when I tell you right now that I am the healthiest, the strongest. I have the best sleep. My energy is the highest it's ever been. Like I just remember my energy in college and how it was like always drained. So like I was just pushing myself through life. And now like I have so much energy and I cannot wait to share with you what intuitive eating is, how it's changed my life, how you can start doing it, because I guess I want to start by sharing my little wellness hiccup that I have. I guess that's what I like to call it. It's like a little blip in my journey where I kind of lost myself for a second. And I know that we all go through this, and I want to be completely honest and transparent with you and let you guys know that I might just put a trigger warning right here if you don't like conversations or you're sensitive to conversations about eating and eating disorders and stuff like that. This episode might not be for you, or maybe like the first half, because I'm going to be explaining like my personal journey and my story as far as like eating habits go and stress and emotional healing and how I ended up turning to food to kind of fill these voids within me. And I want to share a story about how I kind of found intuitive eating and how I started using it in my life to kind of get myself out of this rut that I was in for so long, about a year and a half. And I just want to share with you guys what intuitive eating is, why it might be a good fit for you, and how it's different from a lot of these diets and trends and all these things. This is something that I use in my life. Again, like as a holistic health practitioner, I think that a lot of people might think that, oh, you're holistic, so you probably don't eat anything bad ever, right? And that's not how I live my life. At the end of the day, yes, processed foods are bad for you. I think we all know this. Sugar, anything that would make the body acidic is not good for you. But at the end of the day, I think that once you have a healthy balance created where you're not having cookies and all this stuff every single day, but you have a cookie here and there, right? Like these things aren't going to hurt you over time. And that's the thing, is that I think that people aren't thinking about long term. They're thinking about short term. And this is where I think a lot of us might disagree or might have different goals and disagree on how to get to those goals, because I'm looking at my life long term. That's how I holistically look at life. Whereas a lot of these people, when they find themselves in a rut or where they've gained weight or, they're trying to reverse their habits or the lifestyle choices that they've already been doing and participating in, everyone goes to the short term. Like, okay, in 1 month, I want to lose 10 pounds, or like, you know what I'm saying? In 6 months, I want to lose 40 pounds or whatever it may be. And you start to go like, you start to immediately restrict yourself. You start to immediately feel like, embody this mentality of this is going to be hard and I'm working on myself and I have to change all of these things. And, it might work, right? Like there's a lot of fitness people and nutritionists and all these things. There's a whole, the fitness community. These trends, right? Like these fad restrictive diets of like, oh, here's your plan, be on this plan for 3 months and lose 30 pounds or, whatever it is. It's like a time frame and you follow this plan and then you eventually get to that goal, right? And the thing is that I don't want to dismiss the fact that these plans work, right? Like we can probably always see the ads on our phones or the fitness coaches or the nutritionists or the dietitians posting things saying like, oh, I had this client, she lost X amount of weight, whatever, using my plan, my protocol, whatever it is. And that's great, right? Like those clients are getting results. Those people are happy. They're losing the weight. That's great. But my thing when it comes to this, again, bringing up the fact that I think long-term is, okay, this person probably gained weight, right, by making certain lifestyle choices that got them there. These things probably over time became habits for this person. They're very familiar to you. So when you kind of say to yourself, I'm going to stop everything that I know about the way that I eat and all my habits, and I'm going to follow this one plan that I got from this program or my fitness trainer or like whoever it is, right? That plan may work. I'm not invalidating the fact that these programs can work, right? Depending on the person that's selling it and, whatever. But my thing is that once you lose that 40 pounds after that, following that protocol for 3 months, it is very unrealistic for you to be following that protocol for the rest of your life. So what happens after the 3 months when you've worked with this person and you've been following this specific plan that's worked for you is that you either stay on that plan indefinitely. And you're like, well, it's been working, so I'm just going to stick to these plans and this protocol that I've been given. You're still restricting yourself. You're still not allowing your body to have food that isn't on that plan, right? Like you're still living in restriction. Or like the other option is you go back, you're lost again. You're back to square one because you're like, okay, I'm at my ideal weight or I've reached my goal, but now I haven't formed a relationship with myself, with my mindset, or with food in general that I know and I already have built the habits to maintain this weight, right? Like once you finish that plan, it's kind of like, now what do you eat? Now what do you do? And that's why I think a lot of people have results in certain programs or with certain protocols, but then they might gain the weight back because that person didn't, or their trainer or their coach, whatever it was, never trained them on like, okay, once you do reach that goal, now what? Now, how are you going to live your life? Now, how do you look at food? Now, are you going to follow this restrictive plan forever? And that's why I don't, as a holistic health practitioner, I don't follow plans. Like I can look and talk to my clients about what they're eating, the issues that, the problems in their life and, how they feel and all these things. And we can start talking about food choices. But at the end of the day, I think that any kind of diet is restrictive and that we were never meant to live this way. And that everyone at all times has a conscious choice on what they're putting in their body. So my story is that I had always been athletic. I'd always been either like dancing, figure skating. What else did I do? Gymnastics. And then once I got to high school and high school, I really stopped wanting to be a girly girl and doing all the dance because I'd known that for like the first 12 years of my life, that I was really interested in team sports. So I was very athletic. I played volleyball. I worked out, went to the gym. And so I went to college, and the years like right before I went to college and then going into college it's just a very interesting and emotional time for me because yes, I was leaving my environment. I was leaving and moving to college and, not going to see my parents every day and leaving my little brother home alone. My little brother is 8 years younger than me, 7 years younger than me. And he, I just felt bad leaving him at home all alone. My older brother was already at college. I'm now going to college. He's alone with my parents. And my parents at the time were in the middle of actually getting a divorce. Obviously, just because I was moving to college doesn't take away from the fact that my parents are getting a divorce and my mom's moving out and my little brother's like left in that mess all alone. And it was just a lot of stress, a lot of emotional things I was going through, in addition to like me not really feeling super social and confident in myself. So I'm entering this new environment. People already kind of know each other from orientation. I don't have any friends. I don't know anybody at this college. I'm just anxious. I was anxious. I was socially anxious. I didn't know how to put myself out there. I was stressed. I was going through a lot of like worries, and I was carrying so much guilt too, just because like I just felt like I should have been home with my brother, and as the year went on, my brother was struggling, with bullies and stuff like that. And I just felt so helpless. Like it's just the energy of, you entering a new exciting chapter of your life, but also knowing that you're leaving chaos behind and feeling like you can't mentally get away from that. So since I lived on campus, there was all this food available to us at all times. I mean, obviously you're paying for it each semester, but you can get anything. They serve so many options. And I think that completely unconsciously, my first year, I don't know if it was a social anxiety or just the stress of things, I started eating with my emotions. Like I was just, and I wasn't thinking about this as I was doing it. It was just something that I did. And, thankfully I found amazing girlfriends that we stayed friends and roommates all the way through college. And they kind of got me back on track. It wasn't a conversation I ever had with them, but I kind of noticed after a while that I would pick very carb loaded, sugary foods. And the more and more that I realized I was making these choices, the more I would like look in the mirror at myself and realize that I'm like gaining weight and I'm a little bit more, my face is rounder and I just have more inflammation. And I could just tell, like, I wouldn't say I was fat, but I just gained, I think, 30 pounds or 40 pounds over the course of my whole freshman year, to a point where I remember coming home from college as a freshman, like we finished our finals in the spring and I came home to my dad's house. And like, I remember my older brother was there, my dad was there, and like they had seen me, of course, over Christmas and stuff. And like my dad would come and do day trips up to visit me in college. But like this was the first time that they were really like seeing me for long periods of time, and they hadn't seen me for a long period of time. So I remember like getting like, they didn't know as men what to say or how to approach me as the daughter, as a sister, because they didn't want to hurt my feelings. But like I could tell they noticed that I gained weight, and like they were like, like kind of trying to help me and be like, what's going on? Like, is this something deeper? Like, you know what I'm saying? And or to see if like I cared or noticed. And it was just so funny because I just knew, like, even thinking back now, I can tell like just the looks they were giving me of like, hey girl. And, even my older brother would make fun of me and stuff, but just brotherly, funny comments or whatever. And so I started realizing like, wait a second, I don't like this. I started to not connect to my body anymore. Really destroyed my confidence, even though at the time I felt like I didn't even really have any confidence, but it added on to that insecurity. And I realized that, I wasn't really working out. I wasn't playing sports at college. I was drinking a lot, and everyone says in college you gain the freshman 15, but I gained like the freshman 40. Like, I'm not kidding. And I knew that this was due to just like stress and new environments and having to be more responsible. I think I just didn't care or was consciously aware of the habits that I was starting to form. And that as I formed these habits and making these choices, I learned that I kind of created habits that were not serving me, that were creating an unhealthy relationship with myself, mentally, emotionally, and of course, physically. And I didn't want to like go on a diet. I didn't ever really believe in these things. Not that I didn't believe I could find success in a diet, but I'm like, again, I don't have great habits. I'm not making the best decisions. So I could follow something or some kind of meal plan that would get me back on track, but that's not going to help me form the habits and the care and the relationship that's healthy to food and to my own body. And so going back my sophomore year, I still had the same roommates, I had the same group of friends, and they were playing college sports or they were working out at the gym. And I just started telling myself, like, you know what, you're going to get yourself back on track. This is going to be a gradual thing. Instead of looking at it as a number or a scale or any of that stuff or taking before and after pictures, I just chose, you know what? I know that small daily choices got me here. So that means that small daily choices can get me out of this. So instead of going on a diet and restricting myself and saying, okay, you're going to have salads every day. And then for dinner, you're going to have, a protein and no carbs. Like, I didn't do that. But there'd be certain times where I would have that ice cream sundae, or I would go out and have, fried food with my friends on a little like diner that was on campus. Like, if I wanted to, and it like the time was around, or, there were plans being made to go have fun and enjoy ourselves, I was going to do that, because I knew that if I was on a diet and I was telling myself, you can't have sugar, you can't do this, and my friends were telling me like, let's go get fried food at so-and-so's diner, I knew that if I already formed that decision with myself, I would be like, oh, I can't. And then I would sit there alone, knowing all my friends are having fun, eating one meal that's not going to kill them or me, but I'm restricting myself and all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I chose to take advantage of the opportunities to enjoy myself, to indulge. But I also, majority of the time, when it came to regular meals and like, you choose what you're going to eat for lunch and dinner, I chose to pay attention to my body and ask myself, okay, what's going to provide my body with nutrition, with fuel, with energy? What does my body know how to digest? So I started making, instead of looking at, okay, today you're not having this and that, I looked at, okay, every single choice that presented itself, I asked myself, what would be best for me? Instead of looking at the whole journey and creating this whole mentality of, this is going to be so hard, this is going to suck, I hate this is going to be so uncomfortable, I just said, we're not doing that. We're not going to add any extra stress. We're not going to add any extra guilt and shame on top of all this. Because again, I told you I was already dealing with mental and emotional things, that I'm like, I don't need anything else. I don't need to be the source of my own added emotional problems on top of the real emotional problems that I have right now. So how can I love myself through this process? And so I ended up just looking at every little decision, right? Like if I was walking home from class and I saw this like table selling brownies and cookies, I would, I was starving. I would be like, you know what? You're not going to stop and get a brownie or cookie. You're going to stop at that smoothie place that's a little bit further down and you can grab a smoothie. And like, that was delicious. It wasn't like I was forcing myself to eat food that I hated and was disgusting. Like I'm not sitting there eating raw kale and nothing. Like I was just like, you know what? What's a better choice right now? A brownie or a smoothie? And I knew it was a smoothie. So that's what I would do. And I would just approach every decision that way. Intuitive eating has really helped me create a better relationship with myself and created the lifestyle habits in place so that I can live my life this way for the rest of my life. Like I don't need to label what I eat and my diet and say, okay, this is okay, but this isn't okay. Like everything, all food exists, and it's just up to us as to how can I create the best internal environment for my body, right? Because if you listen to me and you're more of like, you like the spiritual conversations more so than like the physical body, right? Let's tie it all together right now. Having a clean physical body is going to create a clear channel for you to channel information, for you to connect spiritually, for you to hear your guides, for you to hear your angels, for you to connect your intuition. I just believe that intuitive eating is a lifestyle. It's a way of living. It's a way of living. It's not a diet, because to me, diet tells me that that's a temporary thing for you, which again, going back to what I said before, it's not a bad thing if you're on a diet. But my question is, do you have the right relationship to food and your body and what you're going to do after that diet's over? And how long are you staying on the diet for? And like, how are you planning to maintain whatever goal it is, why you're on that diet? Do you have a plan to maintain that goal and to sustain it when you're not going to be on that protocol anymore? So I lost 30 to 40 pounds. I would have to do the number kind of do the calculations, because I remember what I weighed when I went into freshman year and when I left freshman year. It didn't even take a year. It took 6 months, 7 months to get back down to my ideal weight. I don't want people listening to think that you're supposed to be at your high school body weight and image for the rest of your life, because I'm 25 now. I do not have the same body that I had when I graduated high school. Okay. And that doesn't mean as far as weight and numbers go, just the way my body is. I feel like you still develop. And also when you start to work out, like in high school, I was active, but I wasn't like working out and lifting weight and gaining muscle. I was just active. I would run, I would walk, whatever, do abs. But now that I actually work out and I'm building muscle, of course your body's going to weigh differently. Of course your body's going to look differently and feel differently. So don't get it twisted or take away from this that you should always, like, once you leave high school, you should stay in that body shape and that weight for the rest of your life, because as women, we all know that that's not what happens. And I don't want to encourage that. And I want to be transparent about that. But what I'm saying is that I did lose that weight, all that inflammation and weight that I gained from overeating and making these decisions that weren't benefiting me. I lost all that weight, and I'm still today. I haven't changed anything. I haven't gone on a diet. I have no secret besides this. This is the secret. It's intuitive eating. And this creates a healthier relationship that you have to food and that you have to yourself, because now you have that freedom. Like there's nothing restricting you. There's no one saying, no, you can't have that. right? Because I feel like when we tell people no sugar, right? It's like that, then that person, when they crave sugar, which is something that totally happens when you tell yourself you're not going to have sugar and you're used to having sugar, your body starts to crave it because it realizes that it's not having it in the same amounts that it normally would. So when that person craves sugar, they immediately go into a shame spiral or a guilt spiral because according to their protocol, they're not supposed to be eating sugar, but they want it so bad and this sucks. And you know what I'm saying? It's just not healthy in my opinion. You know, it's like short-term uncomfortability, pain, and discomfort for your to get to that goal. And then what after that, you're not prepared for how you're gonna live the rest of your life. So I lost all that weight with intuitive eating. I started working out more, but I wasn't in the gym for 2 hours sweating buckets of water and then restricting myself and eating kale. Like that's not what I did. I still would have sandwiches. I would still eat bread. I would still eat bowls of pasta here and there. Like maybe once a week for lunch or maybe once a week for dinner. I was just being more mindful of what I was eating and how it made my body feel. So I want to talk about what intuitive eating really is. Like if someone asked me like, what is intuitive eating? This is how it would respond. Intuitive eating is essentially a non-restrictive way of wellness. It's a way of being. It's the decisions that you make every single day for yourself. And it helps you make peace with all types of food. It's this energy of everything in moderation. I can have anything that I want, but it's up to me to check in with my body and see if that's something that would benefit me, or if that's something that I know would drain my energy, make me feel sluggish, or something that I just know my body doesn't know how to digest. Majority of my meals are whole food meals. I'm eating real food. It's okay if you have a sugar cookie. It's okay if you have crackers. But what I'm saying is intuitive eating it's the opposite of restriction. And it's an approach to hunger that focuses on the body's cues of when you're hungry and when you're full. So it's really aiming to create a positive relationship that you have to food and to your body. So there's a lot of conditions, especially in America, that I think, and I've never traveled internationally. I would love to, just to see the difference in different cultures and how their portion sizes are different, and all this stuff about food and how other countries kind of operate and what's normal for other countries, because I think there's a lot of conditions that you don't have to live by, that I think we all just know are the way to, this is what you should do. This is what everyone says is right. But it's like, you don't have to follow any rules. Okay. So let me break it down for you. We as human beings are the only species that uses food as an activity, as something to do. As something to do when you're bored, something to do when you're meeting up with people, and obviously if you're meeting up with people to eat because you're hungry, that's different. But I think that, you know what I'm saying? Like we're the only species on this planet that eats for pleasure, whereas every other animal follows that hunger and eats because they have to eat and fuel their body, because that's what food is. Food is fuel and medicine for our body. It helps our body do its natural functions. And depending on the food that you eat, your body uses it and gains something from it and helps your body work better for you, and you feel better as a result of that. Or you put food in your body that your body doesn't know how to digest, that's foreign to your body, that doesn't have any nutritional value, and you end up kind of doing the opposite effect, where now your body doesn't have the fuel and nutrition that it needs, or the vitamins, the minerals, but now it's having to break down this sugary, acidic food that is going to send your body into a completely dysregulated state. Think about it. Like, isn't that weird that culturally, like everything is about food? Like even if you're watching a sports game, there's food, then you go out to dinner and eat more food. And then you come home and you have more food. Like food is something that we stopped thinking about as a resource for our body and as something that is a necessity, something we need, and is now turned into like pleasure. Now, what this does to our mindset is now we embody the mindset of, I'm going to eat what I want to eat. I'm going to eat what I want to taste. And this is something that I had to overcome with intuitive eating, was that I realized that I wasn't picking food based on this question of what could my body utilize. It was more so like, what do I want to taste? What's going to make me feel better right now? Right? So your answer is going to be different. Like, ask yourself, when are you eating with your ego and when are you eating with conscious awareness of, hey, I'm going to pick this because I know that honestly in a couple days I haven't really had any vegetables, and I'm going to saute up some vegetables tonight with my dinner because I definitely need some of that. You know? Like, I think that a lot of us eat with our ego. We're not thinking about what we're putting into our body and how our body's going to use it. We're thinking about, oh, I want that because it's going to be yummy. And yes, I get that we're human beings and this is what food has become. And so it's not fun to eat something you don't like to taste. But and I'm not saying that you have to, again, like intuitive eating is saying, how can I create a meal? What sounds really good to me that would be yummy, but also be utilized by my body? You can do both, right? So think about the food that your body needs, right? Like a lot of times, for example, I'm dehydrated and I will open my fridge for a snack and my eyes immediately go to like the cantaloupe or the grapes. And then I start eating them and I'm like, no freaking wonder why my body wants this. My body intuitively, my intuition said, eat the fruit because the fruit contains water and I'm dehydrated. So your body actually is very, very smart, but you have to be the one to listen to it. Your body actually is sending way more information up to your brain than your brain sends down to your body. So your body is constantly like communicating with you and sensing the environment around you. And so all it takes is to just pause and connect to your body and ask like what would I like to eat, what would taste good, but also what would be nutritious, what would refuel me, what would be good for me right now, right? And then of course if you're out to, you went out to dinner with your family and they're like, let's get ice cream, and you want some ice cream, great. Right now I'm not ordering large ice cream cones, I'm ordering a small, right? Or like a little cup with some whipped cream and some fudge on it. The smallest choices actually add up. So instead of having this mentality of like, oh my gosh, this is going to suck and I'm going to restrict myself and I'm going to go 0 to 100, it's more so like just take it choice by choice that presents itself and start to make different decisions, which are then going to create a different result. We've been conditioned that food is something to be enjoyed and to always be eaten and to always have, like we should be eating all the time, right? Now, another condition is that breakfast is the best meal of the day and that everyone should be eating breakfast. And breakfast is, the most important meal of the day. And, they say that because you're breaking the fast. That's what breakfast is. Break fast. It's breaking the fast that you had overnight while you were asleep. But I found that I'm just not someone that's hungry in the morning. I'm not that person that wakes up in the morning and wants food immediately. I would like water, maybe some lemon water, maybe an hour or 2 hours after I wake up. Maybe I'm in the mood for a bowl of oatmeal, a small yogurt, or some fruit. But in the morning, I'm not hungry. And so I think that a lot of us, if we're not hungry, we've been conditioned to eat just because we're supposed to have 3 meals a day. People used to shame me all the time. You don't eat breakfast? That's the best meal. That's the most important meal of the day. Okay, well, I disagree. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not hungry and I'm not going to force myself to eat food when I'm not hungry. Right? Like, again, going back to our body and thinking of it as a operating system. If you're not feeling hungry, that's your body's way of saying, we're good. We don't need food anymore. We're good. And this is where I would find myself having extra calories. I would be eating when I'm not even that hungry. Just because what? Because it's noon and I'm supposed to be eating lunch right now, just because that's what everyone's doing. But I'm not hungry. So I don't need to eat anything. Maybe I have a snack or an actual meal around 2 or 3 o'clock. To ask yourself, am I following just this time and just because it's 5 o'clock and I'm supposed to be hungry, or it's 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night and I'm supposed to be eating dinner? Like, there are some nights where I'm not hungry at dinner time. So I don't eat dinner because my body's not hungry. I don't need food. And then what happens is maybe around 7 or 8 o'clock, I'm hungry. So what I do when that happens is I might make a meal depending on how hungry I am, right? This is all teaching you to be in tune with your body. So depends. Like I remember a couple weeks ago that happened where my boyfriend was like, what are we having for dinner? And I'm like, it was like 6:15 and I'm like, I'm not even that hungry. And so I ended up, I think it was like 8 o'clock, 8:30 maybe. And I ended up just cutting up an apple and eating an apple and peanut butter. And then I went to bed at like 10. Like, it's okay. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? So pay attention to that too. Like, am I just eating because I feel like I should be? Or am I eating because I'm hungry? So listening to your body and responding to it with the signals it gives you. So when you're hungry, eat. Same thing when you're eating and you're no longer feeling that sense of hunger, stop eating. Okay, that was huge for me because I was also conditioned growing up to eat everything on my plate. Like I remember I'm a slow eater. I still am to this day. I'm such a slow eater. If we're at my boyfriend's family's house eating dinner, if we're at a party, if we're just me and my boyfriend are eating here, I'm always the last one eating. Okay, so I have 2 other points for you here. Number 1, when you're hungry, eat, and then just eat. But when you feel like you're satisfied, not when you're full, okay, that's different. When you're satisfied, stop eating. Okay? So I was conditioned to continue eating. Like I was not allowed to get up out of the kitchen table, my chair, until I finished everything on my plate. And I would tell my parents, I remember being really young, it's like 6, 7, 8 years old and being like, I'm not hungry. And they're like, finish your broccoli. And I'm like, I'm not hungry. Like I really wasn't. So that taught me it doesn't matter. Ignore your body, ignore what your body's telling you, and just eat. Eat everything on your plate. So in order to unlearn that learned behavior and conditioning is that I pay attention now to my body. So when I'm eating, I just had lunch before I'm recording this episode. I had black beans, zucchini, onions, and white rice. And when I was eating that, I realized that I put too much on my plate. And I realized that I was already full. Like I was already satisfied. I did not feel hungry anymore. And that's the difference is we've been trained to eat until we're stuffed, until we're full to the brim. We overload our stomach. And then what happens when you do that is your stomach stretches out and now your stomach can hold more food. So now the next time you eat, you have to eat more to satisfy that feeling of feeling full. Okay? So what you can do is instead of eating until you feel full, like full to the brim and you're disgusted, you want to unbutton your pants, eat until you no longer feel hungry and then stop. Take the rest home. Tupperware the rest for tomorrow. You'll save so much food. Obviously, keep eating. If you're hungry, keep eating. But what I'm saying is, especially in America, the portion sizes are large and we can feel like subconsciously pressured to finish the whole meal instead of recognizing and listening to our body and pausing and being like, hey, I'm not hungry anymore. I'm going to stop. And you know what? This has given me so much more energy after meals because what happens is when you stuff yourself and you're full, you're sluggish, your body now is diverting all of its energy to digesting that meal that's your stomach's full, right? You're probably just feeling not productive. You don't want to get up and do the dishes. You just want to lay there and unbutton your pants. And I didn't like that feeling. So I chose to take this advice that I'm sharing with you now and just stop eating when I no longer feel hungry. Your body's signal when you're done eating isn't to be full. Your body's signal when you're done eating is that you're no longer hungry. The feeling of feeling full to the brim is your body saying, you ate too much. Now I have so much work to do, right? And that's why you have no energy because your body literally goes, great, now we have to spend the next 3 hours or 5 hours digesting this whole meal, right? Instead of eating till you're no longer hungry, right? And that means obviously you're consuming less calories. Now, I would like to note that when I was doing this intuitive eating to lose that weight, I didn't look at a scale one time. I was not concerned about numbers. I just wanted to feel connected to my body. I wanted to feel better in my body physically. So I didn't care about scales. I didn't even have one at college. It's not about the number, you guys. It's about how you feel in your body. And I promise you that the more you look at this journey as tiny little decisions instead of a huge freaking journey and all these changes, right? Like the more you create that scenario of this is going to be crazy in your mindset, the more you're going to notice that it is. Whereas if you wake up tomorrow and you know you want to lose 20 pounds, 10 pounds, I don't care how much weight you want to lose, and you look at your life and say, you know what? And you say, from today on, I have a blank slate. I'm in power. I'm in my power. I get to decide what choices I make every single day. I just have to hold the awareness and follow these tips. So my favorite aspects of intuitive eating are it rejects the diet mentality, obviously. Told you so much about that already. Where you honor your hunger. You can honor your hunger. Where you're hungry, you allow yourself to eat, right? Like a lot of times when we're in this diet culture and we're on a diet, every time we're hungry, we're like, oh, now I have to fight this feeling and I have to starve myself. No, that's an unhealthy relationship with your body and with food. Because again, that's your body saying I'm hungry, and your mindset is, well, I can't have that because I don't like my body and I have to starve myself. No, now your body's like, what the fuck? I told you I was hungry and I don't get anything. And then you wonder why you can't sleep and you have low energy. It's because you're starving yourself. You're not giving into that feeling of hunger. So intuitive eating allows you to honor the times you're hungry. Eat, find a food, ask your body what it needs. What do you want to have? So it helps you create a healthy relationship, a positive one with food and with your body, and to know that you're not restricting yourself and it's all up to you. It's all up to you, right? Like, so if you're on day 3 of this, trying this intuitive eating, and you want to have a brownie, have a freaking brownie. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to gain 5 pounds. So learning to have that boundary within yourself and say, all right, I'm going to splurge and have an ice cream sundae tonight, but I just know that tomorrow I'm not going to have that. I'm not going to be doing this to myself every single night because I know that that's not going to create any change. So it's learning, okay, what has my body had today? Am I hungry? How hungry am I? What do I think my body could need right now? What do I think I could benefit from? And it also helps you like respect your body, right? Because now you're understanding that it's not just, something that you live with and, you can just give it whatever it needs as long as it's full, as long as I'm eating a food, it's fine, right? No, you're learning that your body has a specific digestive system. Your body knows how to digest actual food. Your body can digest processed foods, but it's not going to take as much nutrition from that because there's probably not that much in processed foods. So it's learning, okay, a lot of processed foods exist. I'm allowed to indulge in them, but majority of the time I should be feeding my body real food from the earth that it knows how to digest. If you think about it, back in the 1700s, 1800s, they didn't have Cinnamon Toast Crunch. They didn't have Lucky Charms. They were eating real food. And now today, I would say 60 to 75% of diseases are all lifestyle related habits and choices that have created them, and I feel like once you have one of those big top diseases, you start to have other diseases manifest out of that because your body's now imbalanced. So intuitive eating is eating when you feel hungry and stop eating when you're no longer hungry. Okay. Intuitive eating is also allowing your body to pick foods for you. So again, that example I shared before about the fruit, or, let's say maybe, like you're hungry, you want a snack, you're not really sure what you want to eat, and you go to the fridge or you go to your pantry and you kind of like look around. I feel like immediately our eyes go to like Oreos or chips, right? And like all these things, which again, if you have it, it's not going to kill you. But if that's something that you have on a daily basis, obviously consistency adds up. That's my thing with all of this intuitive eating, is that we're not restricting ourselves, but we're also creating a balance in moderation with all kinds of food. Living in balance without restriction, where once you find your healthy like footing with this, but the more you start to like make these different choices one by one, you start to notice how you're feeling better. You might notice that the weight's slipping off, especially if you're not looking at the scale and you're just focused on the decisions that present themselves and then possibly adding some movement on top of this intuitive eating. That's what I did. Is I wasn't working out for 2 hours, 5 days a week. I promise you that. I was working out maybe for 30 to 45 minutes 3 times a week. And I was just doing like strength training, core workouts, body weight movements like push-ups, abs, stuff like that. And then I would do like 10, 15 minutes of like biking or cardio or jumping rope. If you do the intuitive eating, which is changing the way that you feel about food, it's changing your physiology, obviously, then you can also work on the movement aspect. And obviously, we know that the more exercise we get, or the more that we get our body moving, the more calories we burn, the more we're actually able to allow our body to burn off what we've been eating and, whatever our body's holding on to. So I truly believe that if we can have some more grace and compassion with ourselves and be able to sit there and be like, you know what? Just because I might have made some decisions over a period of time that got me to this place where I just feel uncomfortable in my body, maybe I feel inflamed, maybe I added an extra 10 pounds or whatever it may be, and I'm unhappy in this place where I am right now, the more you can get to this place where like you understand that, okay, that's the truth. But at the end of the day, that also means that you have the ability and the power to make other decisions to get out of that situation. So just because you realize like, oh, I might have some changes to make, it doesn't mean that, we should be shaming and guilting ourselves through this, because that means that you have the power. You're being honest with yourself, and you know that you deserve better. And all that means is that it just starts with one choice at a time, right? So the more that we can create a close-knit relationship with ourselves where we're like, we got this, I got this is going to help me, I know that I can do this, the easier the process is going to be for you, right? Like think about someone who's trying to lose weight and they shame themselves for gaining the weight in the first place. And then every single day they wake up and they're restricting themselves and saying no to themselves all the time. And then they're sitting there in more guilt and shame. And, they're not their best friend. They're actually like adding extra stress and emotional stuff on top of that. The process can be so much easier for someone that says, you know what? I don't particularly feel comfortable in my body right now, but I know that that's temporary. This feeling is temporary and I got this. And the more that I can love myself through this and make decisions, every little small decision is going to add up. So approaching every decision as like, what's going to be best for me right now? How can I love myself through this? What do I need? What does my body need? Maybe for once today, I'm not going to listen to my ego that's saying, you should get the mac and cheese, because I know that my body could actually benefit and I would feel better after a salad, right? So that's the last point I want to make, is that intuitive eating also includes like paying attention to your body when you eat certain foods. So I know that, yes, when I'm eating a bowl of mac and cheese and I'm on my, my period that month and I'm eating mac and cheese, I'm like, oh, this tastes so good. But I know that after I'm done eating and I'm sitting there with a full belly of mac and cheese, I don't feel that good. I feel bloated and disgusting. And, while it was nice to taste and it was great, I like after the fact, or like an hour after I've eaten that mac and cheese, I just don't feel good in my body, right? Or maybe you have cramps, or maybe you have like constipation, diarrhea. Maybe you just like you eat something and you notice a shift in your body, right? Like that's something to note, right? So like if you can keep a log even, and this could even motivate you, right? And I'm not saying to log your calories and like the fat and like all that stuff in the food. I'm saying just write Monday and then write the actual foods you ate. Banana, 1 egg, 1 piece of toast, breakfast, done, right? And then you just keep track of the foods. You'll be able to tell like what foods don't resonate with your body, right? So I learned this about fried food, and I helped a client with this actually as well, because they wanted to lose weight and they were saying that, they have a lot of like acid reflux and stomach pain and burning a lot. And I was like, okay, well, log your food for a week. And I'm not saying to log your calories and like the amounts of things you ate, but log the actual food you're eating. And we noticed that majority of the time it was the oil from the fried food that they were eating almost daily, whether it was for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, to pinpoint these things and kind of adjust accordingly, right? Because every single person's different. Like my intuitive eating is going to look different from your intuitive eating because I have a different body than you. So, and my body's going to digest food differently than your body would. So I could be fine eating eggs, but I know that some people aren't fine eating eggs. And I'm not talking about allergies. I'm just talking about physical symptoms like bloating, cramping, burning, diarrhea, constipation. Like you can kind of identify the foods that your body doesn't like to have, or that makes your body feel backed up or inflamed or whatever it may be, right? So that's another benefit of intuitive eating, is that you can start to identify specific foods that, aren't probably agreeing with your body. Intuitive eating is something that I never really new about. It's kind of something that I did back then when I was in college to get myself out of that rut that I created for myself, and created a healthier relationship with food and myself. And now, like, that's how I live my life. I don't plan to be ever on a diet ever again, because I don't need to be, because I can make these conscious choices myself. This intuitive eating might not be for everyone, but at the same time, I know that I don't want to ever have to depend on a specific protocol where I'm restricting myself, because I know that anything restrictive is not good for us. And balance is what we should be focusing on, not restriction and short-term goals, short-term satisfaction, but then not addressing any of the lifestyle habits, factors, and things that we can start working on from the get-go that enable us to not have to be on a diet at all. You know what I'm saying? Because you've already just built the lifestyle choices, the habits in place, so that you can be in charge of your own diet, your own whatever you're eating. And you can do it from a place of empowerment, of self-love, right? Someone who loves themselves gives their body what they know their body needs, right? Like someone who eats healthy, you can tell that they love themselves. They love themselves enough to feed them healthy, nutritious food that they know is going to benefit them, benefit their sleep, their hormones, their energy levels. So it's learning, okay, how can I love myself through this? What does self-love look like for me when it comes to food and eating? So I really hope that this really helped you guys expand your perspective, maybe give you guys like a relief, even if you feel like you've been pressuring yourself and feeling so guilty or shameful over like what you eat or your relationship to food or how you kind of talk to yourself about food. Because it's 100% possible for you. You know, obviously it's a gradual shift, but I would rather take a little bit longer to solidify in these new lifestyle habits so that I'm good, you know, and I don't need to, you know, restrict myself and go through this crazy 3-month journey and protocol and then be left again after the 3 months of like, okay, now what do I do? Now what choices do I make? I haven't practiced that. So, my little summary is that intuitive eating is essentially allowing your body to communicate to you, allowing yourself to check in with your body and pick foods consciously that you know are going to serve you, that are going to fill you up, that are going to benefit you. Intuitive eating is allowing yourself to eat when you're hungry and honor that. But at the same time, it's also on the flip side of that is saying, okay, I'm no longer hungry. I'm not going to eat the last third of my meal because I know that if I did eat this whole plate, I would feel full, like stuffed. And then that would make me feel this like gross and heavy and bloated and give me the hiccups and make me feel like I have no energy. So stop eating when you're no longer hungry, and not forcing ourselves to continue eating, right? Which is just a subconscious habit I think a lot of us might have. It's just subconscious. So a lot of us might not even realize that we're picking, you know, when we're having conversation with someone and we're just like picking, you know, the chips and salsa that have been on the table, even though we're like full. It's just something that we subconsciously do, but to be aware of that and be like, you know what, I'm good, you know, I'm good. And it doesn't involve calorie counting, scales, or any of that. Intuitive eating is you forming a positive relationship with your body and with food and allowing yourself to get to know your body, get to know what foods agree with your body, what foods don't, and allow yourself to create a balance where there's no restriction. Restriction does not exist here in the Integrated Self podcast. So yeah, I feel like that summarizes everything. Pay attention to how much serving sizes, how big of a serving size you're serving yourself. And like, even if it's a huge plate and you can't control that, whatever it is, just pay attention. Like, okay, it doesn't look like I ate a lot, but compared to the amount of food that was on my plate, I did eat a pretty good amount. And that's why I'm not hungry anymore. Also, allowing ourselves to not feel pressured to eat when we're not hungry. So are you eating because you're bored? Are you eating because it's noon and you're supposed to eat lunch, or are you eating because you're hungry and you could use a lunch? You know what I'm saying? That this is how I find my balance, is being like, okay, I haven't had fruit in 2 days, or I haven't had fruit since yesterday. You know, what kind of fruit could I have today? You know, how can I, you know, when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, as I'm making my breakfast, I'll add some fruit onto the side of my toast with an egg so that I know I'm like, okay, I got some fruit in. That's good. I know I always have vegetables with dinner, so that's how I get my vegetables in. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you create more of a variety? How can you create and add more color into your meals as well? That's a huge one. You know, like, I think that the more variety that you can provide your body, the more it's going to pull from all the different foods you eat and be able to naturally function, you know, and lose weight or have more energy, have more mental focus. Even just the emotional side of trying this is that there's no extra shaming and guilting and, you know, making ourselves feel bad for our decision making, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, with intuitive eating that you're always in control. So yeah, I hope you guys learned a lot. I hope that this is something that you try, or, you know, if you feel like you could, even if you're someone that doesn't have struggles with food or eating or, you know, your relationship to food, but you feel like you could get more vegetables in or you could get more fruit in, it's like, okay, maybe I don't like to eat fruit like as it is. Maybe I could start looking up smoothie recipes. Maybe I could start looking up juicing recipes or certain ways to get my fruit in. Maybe I could start making like acai bowls for breakfast with fruit. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many, food is so delicious. Like whole food is so delicious when you know how to cook it or when you can find a recipe that you really enjoy, and allow yourself to have fun with this. Like allow yourself to enjoy this process and know that it doesn't have to suck and you don't have to eat kale with olive oil and that's it. Like you can find delicious meals that are savory and yummy and also provide you that food that's going, your body's going to be like, yes, thank you so freaking much. So just that's how I think about it. I think about my body as something I have to take care of, something that I'm grateful to be in this life. And that's something that's like, it just amazes me. Like your heart beats from the second you were created to for decades. Your heart never stops beating. Like that's so awesome. Like, don't you want to help your body? Don't you want your body to live as long as you can and, you know, make it super healthy and make sure it's in like it's balanced and healthy and giving it food that it's going to use to actually extend your life or, you know, make you have more energy and make you feel more connected to yourself. Like I think that we're so focused in society right now on things outside ourselves that it's so easy to neglect our wellness and these small little choices. I think a lot of people are looking for complex, like, you know, people want to lose weight or whatever it may be, but they expect that it's going to be hard and they expect this complex answer with these complex protocols that it's like this hidden secret. Girl, sir, the hidden secret is just that it's small daily choices that add up. Consistency is key. And so the more consistent you can be about being aware of what you're eating, the decisions you're making and why you're like where you're making them from. Are you making it from your ego? Are you making it from just conscious awareness of your body? You know what I'm saying? So I could talk about this for so long, you guys, but I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. DM me on Instagram. If you have any questions, you can find my Instagram down below in the comment section or in the description of the podcast, the show notes. So if you have any questions about this, you guys, please DM me. If you want to share with me like that you tried this for a week and DM me and talk to me about like how you really enjoyed it or what the results were for you and how it changed your life. Like, please let me know because it totally freaking changed mine. And I know that I'm not the only one. So, yeah, I really hope that you guys took away some awesome information from today's episode. And I will see you next week. Love you guys.